Well, hi there. Okay, today I'm going to be showing you how to do the Terra magic stitch in the round, and I created this stitch after I created my 2-peg frilly border, and then I thought, gee, why wouldn't this work on a project, this stitch? It doesn't curl, you don't need any pearls, it is so fast and easy. So I'm doing it in the round, and I'm doing it as a cowl, and I've got a Martha Stewart loom, and it's set up in a 3/4 inch gauge, and I have 46 pegs, so it'll be a little looser than a 42 peg cowl. And you're going to need to mark your pegs. If I didn't have this particular loom, I would have put stitch markers on each 2-peg pair, and then maybe none there, and then here I'd put markers and then none there, because we're always going to be wrapping 2 pegs together. But on this loom, it's easy for me to remember, because I just know I'm always wrapping a green to the left and a pink to the right, a green to the left, pink to the right, all the way around. So I know which pegs go together. So 1 and 2 will get wrapped together, 3 and 4 will be wrapped together, and so on, all the way around the loom. You'll just keep going, and you'll always be wrapping the same pegs. So you need an even loom. That's the only thing with doing this stitch. You need a loom with even pegs. There probably is a way to do it with uneven pegs, but you would have a jog, because you would have 1 peg that was odd. So I wouldn't recommend it if you want a nice smooth look, but there probably is a way if all you have is uneven peg looms. Okay, so we just make a slip knot and we put it on the first peg, and then the cast on I'm going to do once I find my loom hook. So I'm just going to put you on pause. I seem to have lost track of my loom hook. Okay, have a loom hook. The yarn I'm using is Landscapes yarn. If I can get the color here. The color is Cabana. So Lion Brand Landscape yarn in the color Cabana. So that's the yarn I'm using. Put it back here so there it stays. Okay, so we're just going to do a crochet cast on. It has a nice chain edge, and then we'll be binding off with the cast on, or the cast off that matches it. Oh, and I was going to go over the different things you can make. So I'm making a cowl, so I'm just going to do it about 10 inches and then bind it off. But you could actually have used a little bit smaller loom, and you could have done a big, large, round panel and made a tube scarf, and that would have been good. Or you could have used a much bigger loom than this and done an infinity scarf in the round. And so you could also do that. The stitch looks different than it does when you're doing it in a flat panel. Flat panel, you get that curly, wavy effect. We're going to get more of an effect of up and down. And the reason for that is we're just going around and around and around the same direction. So it's going to lean a bit, because you're creating a kind of a spiral when you do that. When you're doing a flat panel, you're going back and forth, so the stitch is leaning that way, and then it's leaning this way, and then it's leaning that way, and that's what gives you the wavy effect. So we're just going to have the one lean to the stitch, but it looks quite attractive in the round, and the inside of it looks very, very attractive in the round. So it's completely reversible, and we don't need any pearls. And after you do the cast on, you can go straight in the stitch. It works fine that way. Or after the cast on, you can do a row of owl eye if you want a little bit of a stitch just before you go into the stitch. I didn't bother when I did this in the first one I made. Okay, so anyway, we're going to take the hook, put it into the loop, pull the working yarn through to make another loop. Tighten this up a bit, and then we're just going to put this loop behind the next peg, put the working yarn through it, and snug it up. And if you're using a yarn like I'm using landscape, you want to be careful how you snug it, because your yarn can rip really easy, but you just want to take all the slack out so that when you go to knit this over, you don't have really loose loops. You can take it over, but they're not so loose, they're going to leave a big loopy hole there. Or I mean, not a hole, but a great big loop. Okay, and then we're just going to go around using this method of casting on. I'll just show you a couple more times, nice and close. So we go behind the peg with the loop, take the working yarn, pull it through, creating this other loop. Put this loop behind, goes behind the peg, working yarn through, and it just nicely wraps the peg. So we're going to go all the way around, and I'll meet you up when we get over here. Okay, so here I am, and so I'm just going to go behind the last stitch here, and now just to connect these up, I'm just going to throw the loop over and tighten it, and then I can just knit that off. And we are connected. And then we can go right into the stitch. So all we're going to do, here's our first 2-peg pair. And I know where mine are because I'm always going to be the green and the pink. So I'm going to wrap in front of the green and pink, and I'm going to go over 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the next 2-peg pair, which is 3 and 4, go over the 2, and you want to do this nice and loose. Make it a joy to do. And you're just going to wrap them together 3 times. And you go over to the next 2-peg pair and wrap them together 3 times. And you're always going in front like that to do the wrap. Okay, and then you go to the next 2-peg pair and you're always wrapping. Do a close-up. We're in front of the 2 pegs. We knit them off. The yarn's at peg 2. We go behind, wrap it in front, knit it off the second time. We're behind, we go in front, knit it the third time. Really easy stitch to do. And we just keep going around, and when we get back here, we wrap these 2 pegs together again, and we just keep wrapping the same 2-peg pairs together. Always in the same way. The stitch goes really, really fast. And we're just going to take a look. This is our first row. All we've done is cast it on and did our first row, and you can see that we're starting to get work here already. See, it's getting quite long already. This is the stitch right here that we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to work my way all the way around, and I'm going to do a couple rounds, and we'll meet up and see how that looks. Okay, I'm on my second time around. So I've just rewrapped these 2 pegs together. Now I'm wrapping these 2 pegs together. And what's going to happen now is it's going to look a lot thicker between the 2 pegs. And so you're going to want to, from time to time, just pull the work down so it doesn't float all up here. And there you can see how much work is done already. I'm on the second row, and this is how long we are already. So it's coming along quite quickly. Okay, so we're not going to need, I'm not going to need to do that many rounds when 2 rounds gives me what looks like about 2 inches. Okay, so I'll meet you up when I've done enough rounds that I think I want to bind off. I'm going to go somewhere between 10 and 12 inches, so I'll see you then. Okay, so here we are now, and I've gone this far and I'm ready to bind off because this cowl is the length I want. And there we go. And I made it 10 inches long, which is about what I wanted right there. And so now we're going to bind it off, and I took the working yarn and I wrapped it around 3 times and cut it. So I would have enough length to do the bind off. So we'll just go ahead and do the bind off and get a needle. There's my needle. And thread the needle with the yarn. But let's take a minute to actually look at the stitches. So there's what they look like. So it looks quite a bit different in the round than it does when it's flat, but it still looks really nice. It doesn't have the curly wavy look, but it has a very nice texture to it. And then the inside is really interesting looking. Caught a stitch in there. Here's what that looks like. Really nice. I'll be wearing this side a lot too. Okay, so let's get ready to bind off. Okay, I think I'm just going to cut this yarn a little bit smaller. I went around 3 times. I usually don't need that because you can always get yourself a little more space by taking some of the pegs off that have already been bound off, or the yarn off some of the pegs that are already bound off. Okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. And we're starting at this peg, so we're going to go down the peg before it. So here we go. Oops, sorry, make sure there we go. So here we are. We're going to go down the peg before. There we go. We're going to go back up the first peg. Of course, that wasn't the first peg, but okay, and we're going to go behind peg 2, and then we're going to go down peg 3, and up peg 2. So it'll be the second time through 2. And then we're always tightening as we go. We want this to be nice and tight. Okay, now when we're done, we go between the 2 pegs we just wrapped, and then come back in front, and we go down the next peg. And then we go up the peg before. Snugging it up, and then we go between them, down the next peg. And then up the peg before. And then between the 2. And I'm just going to hold on a minute, pause while I adjust the camera. Okay, there we go. That's better. And then we just, we're at this peg. We go between the 2 pegs and in front, and we go down and up, peg before, snugging it up, and then we go between the two pegs we just did, wrap behind and then in front, and then go down the next peg and up the peg before, tightening it up between the two pegs, down the next peg, up the peg before, tightening it up between the two. And so we're just going to keep doing that all the way around, and so I'll meet you back up when we get back to the first peg that we bound off. Okay, so I'm this far and I'm here and I'm going around and down and up and around and down, and here I am back at the first peg, and so then I'm just going to come down again. There we go. And that should hold it, so we can take it off, and then we just weave in the yarn. And I've already taken off some as I went, so I just slip the rest off. There we go. Okay, and then we just take it and we give it a stretch and stretch it this way. There. And there's our cast on. There's our bind off. Trying to get them to line up there. Whoop. There they are. They look very similar. And how do they look on both ends? Well, they're about the same stretchiness on both ends. See? The same distance on both ends. And they're both just as stretchy. And so there you go. There's a cowl in the stitch, and let's flip it around and look at the other side. And there you go. There's the cowl in this stitch. And that looks really nice too. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, we'll see you. Bye.